everybody, welcome to True Stream, talking about art and life as an artist. Here's your host, artist and educator Bobby Chu.
All right, hey everybody, and welcome to Chew Stream. I am very happy to introduce one of my ultimate best buddies and ultimate artistic heroes, Mr. Steven Silver, on the stream. He's our guest artist for today. He teaches fundamentals of character design as well as advanced character design on schoolism.com. An absolute phenom in the character design world, as well as a very knowledgeable, artist about artist rights and just how to survive as an artist. So I thought it'd be really great to bring him out. And I have on here a friend of mine, Matt Johnson, is on the stream as well, and he's going to be just asking us questions and everything. Matt is uh, an artist himself, and I just thought, because I always got along with Matt very, very well, that he might be a great addition to these streams and just to keep the conversations awesome and interesting and everything. And so, welcome, guys.
Thanks a
Hey,
lot, Bobby.
thanks. Woohoo! Here we
Yeah, I
are. Would it
really
be
appreciate it.
inappropriate
I'm
to
glad to
go
be.
choo choo stream? Yeah.
I have a question for you guys. This is something that has always interested me, and I think a lot of people will get something out of this. One of the things that I love the most about what you guys do is that you're so stinking fun. The two of you guys in your artwork are hilarious. It's a good mix to have all of the skill that you guys have, and then also you really seem to enjoy what you're doing. I think that sometimes for us that are aspiring to be artists and aspiring to grow in this career, we feel a lot of pressure as students of the arts to work really hard and really grind out on some things. And you guys bring a joy to it that I feel like is a very special ingredient. Can Stephen, maybe can you talk to that for a minute?
Yeah, I kind of feel it's a lot of times in a weird way, it's a generation gap, partly, where I think I see more and more artists get so stressed out about art because of the access they have to art now with the Facebook, the Instagram, the Pinterest. When I was growing up and learning, I had my books, my heroes. I had about three, maybe about 5 to 10 guys that were my guys. That wow, from Rockwell to Mort Drucker to these guys, and I saw the humor just not only in a lot of all their work. So the people I was following, their work had just a lot of humor, but also there wasn't as much as a pressure that I see today with artists. They're comparing themselves too much, and there's a great philosopher, the guy by the name of Wallace Wattles, and he said, "Don't be competitive, be creative." And that was always, just stood out where, and this was old school thought, but it's still stays true today. Is it's don't worry so much, and I think that's why people stress out a lot because they're comparing themselves way too much to all the great talent. And the only thing that you can do really is just do what you're gonna do. There was a author, another author. He was very famous, like writer, but he said, "Be yourself because everyone else is already taken." You know, and that's what it comes down to. It's just like you just be yourself and just have fun with it. But that's where my sort of thought comes into this.
What do you think, Bobby?
Well, yeah, definitely agree with Steven in everything that he was saying. Some things to add to that, I would think, is, which I'm sure Steven would agree, is don't do what everyone expects you to do. Like, if everyone is going to school and school costs $200,000, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Think about what's logical. Think about what's logical and do that, because how people were, 30 years ago, the things that they would say, the things that they would do, nowadays we might think that that's the most ridiculous thing or completely offensive or whatever, right? Totally unhealthy. Um, if you are always thinking what's logical, I think that will breed evolution in the right direction. And the other thing is to take some time and don't just design cool video games and movies and that stuff is super fun, but take some time to design your life. Think about how you want your life to be. That was something that was really monumental in my life years and years ago when I first started the studio. 12 years ago, I before we started the studio, me, Ben, and my brother Ben and K.S. Dara, um, I sat down and just wrote down how I wanted my life to be, and every move that I could make towards that ideal kind of picture, I would make that move. So, for example, I wanted to continuously learn. I wanted to travel a lot, travel the world. So then we started to do, you know, workshops all in different cities and these cool cities we want to go to, and at the same time we're the ones organizing the workshop, so we're going to attend the workshop and learn at the same time, and all of a sudden that became our job. It wasn't an expense anymore, and that was really, really great. And same with the online classes. I still work on big movie projects and things like that, but part of my job, I made it so that I have to take these schoolism classes and I have to learn from these great, amazing artists and level up my game. It doesn't sound too bad at all when you put it like that. So take some time and really design your life.
Yeah, yeah, you just got to think, I just want to enjoy this. It's such a thing about just wanting just to experiment, be distinctive. That's a huge part. And for anyone, I just want to mention, for anyone who's trying to put together a portfolio out there, you don't just want to follow the masses, what everyone has in their portfolio, because then how are you any different from them? So if you just allow yourself just to, once again, be you, relax, you're learning, you're studying, you're finding your own voice, you put in something, cool in there, that's when people react to it. And I think that's what happens, when people are even seeing Bobby's art, they just see something, wow, that looks so different from the normal, say, concept art of spaceships or people, with battle axes, running through. It's like you just add that humor. And humor comes from your own experience too. So it's important to get out there. And this is why I'm glad that I grew up in a generation where there was no curfew. I lived in the time of the Goonies. Before that, you just jump on your bike and you go explore. And I didn't live in a world of my parents that they didn't know half the stuff that I did. I did a lot of horrible things when I was younger, and I don't want to say that I put those things into my artwork, but it's just like it's still experience and keeping your eyes open all the time, and not just feeling that you're only drawing when you're actual drawing, but you're drawing with your eyes when you're just walking, experiencing, you're out in another country or a city, or you're at the beach or you're at the park, and you look at some guy and you go, God, look how funny that guy looks when he's walking. It's just like, it's weird, and in your mind, those are the sort of things that I think is the observation that you'll be able to bring back into your own storytelling and your own work that will make your, pictures, humorous when you're working on something.
That's great. That's something that Terry LaFontaine spoke to me about. The very first thing, I was lucky enough to be one of the students at the Imaginism in-house workshop right when they started doing that. And I was sitting in the airport with Terry, waiting on the fourth student to arrive for our workshop. And he started describing that for him, sketching people in public, he had a sketch pad and a ballpoint pen, and he started talking about how people make him feel. Can you talk about that a little bit, Stephen? Because I know that you bring such personality to your work. Yeah,
again, I think you decide what it is that you love to do. I knew at a very young age, I love just drawing people. That's where I feel I was always observing and looking at people. And because of that love and that passion at looking at people, and I think a lot of it came from Mad Magazine for me and Norman Rockwell, just seeing the way that they drew people all the time and seeing this expression and this life. And I go, God, I want to do that. I want I love that. It's so exciting. Jack Davis, all these guys. I'm like, that's so exciting to me. And so when I'm just looking at people, that's merely what it becomes. I'm just looking at the funny in people. Every single body shape is different. Even though we're all human, we all have the same eyes, nose, ears, everything else. It's all arranged differently. And that's what character design is. Character design is just an organization of your shapes, an organization of the feeling, of the shapes too. And so when I'm looking at people, I'm thinking about how can I organize that in a way that makes it sort of just fun and funny and add some life and interest. But yeah, I honestly do. So I think I do more looking at people, more observing of people than I do actually drawing.
Now it's
Wow.
kind of like automatic for you, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
you can't
yeah.
even turn it off.
No, no, not at all,
You
not
know,
at all.
I will look at characters. I'll look at people. I just said characters because that's how I see them as well. But
Yeah, yeah,
Kay and I will look at characters and we'll be like, "Oh, that is totally a Steven Silver person right there."
That's
Or
hilarious.
yeah, that it's so funny that you say that because
Wow.
we do that as well. And that
What,
actually
what?
leads to one of the audience questions as well, something that's somewhat similar. And this is for you, Stephen. So,
Yeah, yeah.
what's your most favorite thing about being an artist?
Hmm.
Um, I would say the unknown, so to speak, just the true ability, just to, if something that I want to draw comes into my head, or an idea, or I just want an invention or anything that I have, because I think like that too. I have a book just of inventions that is
Cool.
separate from anything anyone's seen, that I just keep when I come up with all these different ideas. And just to be able to take something from nothing and put it down and just have something, I don't know, that's just exciting to me. It's just like it's so random, and some days I don't want to draw at all. I'm just like, oh man, I don't even feel it. I just want to go, I'll just go on a hike or do something and get away. But yeah, I think it's just the pure freedom, I'd say, for me. What about you, Bobby?
Totally. I think it's more about being an artist that is independent, an
Yeah,
artist that works out of his own studio and everything. And
mhm,
that, the combination of that, that's what I love the most about
yeah,
being an artist. You make up your own jobs, like
yeah, yeah,
going
yeah,
back to what the first topic was, how do you kind of enjoy your life as an artist?
yeah.
Um, and this is part of it. The video that you see on the screen, this is, I
Hmm.
have to make a video. I made it, so I have to make a video. And so I take that opportunity to do stuff I'm not used to. I would
Yeah.
just try to, this is a painting of me just trying to just do some rough paintings of things that are very difficult for me to wrap my head around. And I just, show the bad stuff, and I know eventually it'll become better and better, like the ZBrush, stuff I was doing. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
I was listening to a Tim Ferriss interview, the guy who wrote the 4 Hour Work Week and all that, and he said that one of his friends said if he only ever did the things that he was qualified for, he'd be sweeping a floor somewhere.
Yeah, right. That's so
Uh,
true.
you got to take those risks and make those jumps, and I just think that's a really great way to look at things. That taking those risks is what it's all about with growth. But that what you guys keep talking about, like Bobby, you mentioned lifestyle design a minute ago, and I actually had that written down as one of my notes to ask you guys about. Um, One time a while back, you'd mentioned that I think it was maybe it could have even just been a tweet, but you said that routine doesn't take away your time. Routine gives you freedom
Yeah.
to do what you want with your time. And that plays a lot of that. Could you speak to routine a little bit?
Yeah, one of the reasons that I want to start my own studio is because I didn't want to listen to nobody. I didn't want to, I didn't want anybody to tell me when to come in and when to leave and all that stuff. Uh, and I want to do my meetings in the jacuzzi and things like that. And we did, and we had these fun meetings in the pool and stuff like that, thinking about what we're going to do next. And did anything get done? Yeah, but very little, and it wasn't until I made a routine, worked on schedules, and really delved into making the ultimate kind of schedule for me, that I was able to do way more, because when you have everything organized and what you want to do, then you'll be able to do them a lot quicker, a lot more effective, and you'll be able to do even more.
And Stephen, you had a couple of comments about this on one of your recent videos about artists that want to work in the studio, that work at home, and then artists that get the studio job and then they want to work at home again. Right?
Yeah. I had mentioned, just one of my art talks, just about the idea that the reality is that most people who aren't working in the system, their dream is to work in the studio, and that's their thing. But most people who are working in the studio, their dream is to, like, what's the dream is to, well, I just want to work from home. I want to work on my own things, and that's the reality of it. It just happens that way because you start to realize that having your own time, being able to make up your own projects, do your own thing is the most rewarding thing. And the way I sort of look at it, and Bobby kind of hit on it, a little earlier, just in regards to, it's just like making up your own stuff. And it's like, I don't know if any of you guys remember out there, but there used to be these books called Choose Your Own Adventure. Mm-hmm. And they were these great books where you'd read and you got to the end of a chapter, and then all of a sudden it gave you this decision. Now, do you want to move into the castle or do you want to drive away from the castle? And depending on what you chose, then you went to that page and did the rest of the story. And that's how I sort of just see all this, is like, we do have the decision. Some people don't believe it, but you got the choice to choose your own adventure and write your own script and write your own story and just do it. And I think that's when you start to realize the power of that and saying, you know what, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to follow through. That's the most important thing. And at this point, when you're going to make these sort of leaps and jumps, you just simply cannot be afraid of failure. You can't be afraid that it's not going to work out. You can't even be thinking that it's not going to work out, is the bottom line. You got to be like, it is going to work out. And so what if it doesn't? And if it doesn't, again, I don't want to put that seed into my head, but if it doesn't, then you start thinking about other ways that you're going to maybe just, it didn't go the exact way planned, but let me try something new, where most people give up. The minute something bad goes wrong, that's it. And I find then you weren't truly serious about doing this in the first place then. If you're willing to, yeah.
Can I add a little tiny bit to that? A lot of times I find the thing that we go for, the thing that we really truly want, is there right after the point where we would usually give up. If you keep going past that point where you usually would have gave up, like last year you would have gave up, that's when you find that thing that you wanted. That's when you get it a lot of times.
Right. Yeah. It'll come. Again, it's just know what you want. That's the bottom line, is that you have to know what it is that you even want. And if you don't know what you want, then that's where a lot of it gets screwed up. You can't just say, I want to be I just want to be an independent artist and work at home. Okay. Well, then what? It's just like, so the idea of sort of having some sort of plan and saying, well, I want to start this. This is my goal. I'm going to start my own coloring book company, and I'm going to create all these cool children's book coloring things. Okay, cool. That's an idea. That's something to launch. Okay. And then a lot of the times I believe in, we've heard that saying, build it and they will come. And that's the thing, is don't just talk about it, build it. And then you can start to, it's nice to have a plan again, but plans don't always go the way we want it to. So if you just maybe say, well, okay, I want to do a children's coloring book, and that's the idea. That's what I'm going to start. And I got all these thoughts in my head. Well, think about, where can you possibly go? Are there children's conventions? Are there schools? Are there, that you can arrange something with the PTA and go to these schools and do something with it? You got to think this through. And people don't think this through. I know several people that I helped self-publish their own books. And they thought, publishing my own book, I'm going to publish my own book, I'm going to have my own book. And then they published their own book, and then they had no desire. Well, I don't really like going to conventions, and I don't really like, I don't want to, all of a sudden they didn't have a game plan after that. They weren't thinking about that. So then the books just sort of sat around and it didn't become what they wanted it to become. So you got to think things through sometimes.
You mentioned a lot about, knowing what you want. You need to know what you want. Would you say maybe that a little bit of this is about learning what you want? Because for me, when I went to the workshop, for instance, I was like, man, I'm going to take this workshop. I'm going to be here for 30 days and I'm going to learn from Bobby and Terry and all these geniuses. And I'm going to come out of here. Surely I'm going to be an independent artist and like I'm going to get to quit my day job. And what I learned from Bobby and Terry and everybody is that leaving my day job might not have been what I wanted. And I still work full time to this day and I'm happier than I've ever been as an artist as well. So sometimes you got to learn what you want, right? You don't just know right off the bat, right?
Yeah, no, I think it's an actual, discovery. And I think it's just through, just a lot of it is observation and coming across people that you even just, meet or just learn or just hear about their story. It's almost like what's happening here. This is a learning process, for people. And as people are just studying, constantly, they start to see, look how this person handles this and goes through this process. Now, I think that's something that I want to do. In all honesty, and I'm going to throw this in here. It's just with the schoolism is what happens is you get to choose your own adventure. And that's what I like about that. It's like, because all of a sudden, I get people all the time, this is what I want to be, but then they're going to these schools and they're being thrown into all these other mediums and areas that they can't, even get to do the focus that they love to do. So I think decide what it is that you enjoy, and then learn about that. And that's going to be the catalyst to guide you. That's going to say, yep, I'm going to continue on this path, or you know what? Nah, this doesn't really interest me. I'm not going to do that.
A lot of times, how are you going to even know what you want to do unless you get out there and you try different things? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, I remember seeing my friends' kids and we're having dinner and everything, and it's like, oh, do you want to try some of this? And they're just like, nope. Like, I do not like that. And it's like, how do you know? How do you know
Right.
yet? Yeah,
Yeah.
and eventually they did try it, and it's just like, yeah, I wouldn't mind another one, this and that.
That's really great. And a lot of that goes back to fear as well. You guys mentioned a little bit about risk and fear, and I'm going to ask some audience questions in a second. I'm opening those up now. Can you guys speak to me a little bit about risk in that regard and taking, it seems like, taking the leap is a big part of this, Stephen, and I feel like you speak really well to that fact.
Yeah, it's I think for me anyway, what it comes down to is just, our whole lives, we've always taken risks. Remember the first time you rode a bike and you were scared shitless, and you thought, because you were thinking about the outcome. Well, what happened? I'm gonna fall off, and if I fall off, and then I'm gonna get a bloody knee, and then I'm gonna hurt myself. And you created all these scenarios in your head, and it's like we've done it in so many times throughout our life that what's the difference when you just try it with your own career and your own path? Again, it's just, I think the big thing is just stop worrying about the end result, and I think that's what's holding everyone back, is that they're becoming just too concerned about what might happen. And I think if you can just get, it takes work. It's not just going to happen. It's, you could say, well, how do you just do that? You don't just do that. You got to fail enough times to realize that, what, was it really the end of the world?
Right.
There's a lot of people in this planet who have a lot harder and shittier time than, so many of us are happening. And a weird thing, and I don't know what it is, maybe it's part of my Jewish heritage, but I don't know why, but I believe in reincarnation, but I watch Holocaust documentaries all the time. And I don't know why, I'm just drawn to it, World War II. And when you see, and I was just watching one on Vietnam yesterday, and just when you see what people have gone through, this is nothing compared to us trying just to get a job or trying to work something out or figure something out. It's nothing. So you got to decide what's your biggest fear. What is that? What's that thing that is your true fear? And for me at a young age, believe it or not, when I had to go, I was trying to set up at a shopping mall to do caricatures there, and I was so nervous, and my dad came up to me and said, what are you so scared of? And he said, what's your biggest fears? I had to meet with the mall management, people in suits. What's your biggest fear? And I said, well, I would hate to be stabbed, and I would hate to drown. I think that would suck. And he said, when you go into that meeting today, are they going to stab you? No. Are they going to drown you? No. Okay, the worst they're going to do is say no, that it's not working out. We don't want you here. And he said, you know what? You're right. That's the worst that's ever going to happen in our situation, that they're just going to say no. And I think from that point, I was around 18 years old at that time. And from that point, that's how I've really just seen everything and tried everything, because what's the worst that's going to happen?
You're right. And, I think that actually ties in very well with a couple of questions from the audience here. Anne Mayfair asks, how do you combat the perpetual embarrassment of submitting portfolios for jobs you're sure you're not qualified for? Does it go away after the first couple of jobs you actually get?
You know what? I think it's just more like depends on the person. Some people, they're okay with what they draw, and some people are completely not. Everything that they draw, even though they might be held on a pedestal by everybody else, they look at their art and they're like, I don't like that art. Oh my gosh, please don't show that. There's tons of that. So I think it is this internal thing that we all kind of battle inside. I do as well, even though I don't feel like it really affects me as much, and that's only because I don't put the importance on whether or not somebody is going to like it. Okay, I just put the importance on, is this something that I like, and am I trying my hardest? Am I putting in the time? And am I trying to constantly think about it like, is this logically the right move? You got to constantly look up and see if you're heading in the right direction. And if you're like me and you can go, okay, logically, yeah, those things are the things that I should care about, because those are the things that I can actually do something about, then you don't have to worry about anything else. Just like for me, these paintings here are done in a completely different way than I usually paint. And so I know I'm going to crash and burn or whatever. Hopefully I don't too badly, but it doesn't matter to me. What matters is I'm logically thinking about this. I'm going, okay, if I constantly do this, if I continuously do this, they will get better and I will get to the spot that I want to get to.
Very, very good answer. Very good.
Yeah, I think people are just they put a lot of stress on themselves, and partly is the feel that they need to post everything on social media. That they do even their little experiments, and then they don't get the likes. But I have 500 friends and I only got 5 likes. What does that mean? Oh no, I suck, and all of a sudden creates this horrible thing where you can't, look at it like that. But for anyone out there, I just kind of want to say, if you have the time, or make the time, not if you have the time, make the time, is research this thing. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Don't ask me how to spell it, but Dunning, D-U-N-N-I-N-G, Kruger effect. And it was this sort of this whole sort of experiment, not experiment, but this social thing that these guys created, is this whole theory of how so many artists, especially in the creative field, where they don't feel that they're good, enough. They're constantly beating up on themselves, and it's not real. And then there's the people who clearly have no talent, but think they're extremely talented. And some of these people you see on like American Idol, right? Where they were on American Idol, they can't sing to save their lives. And even though they're told they are horrible and you need to go and work on it, they're nope, you are so wrong, I'm right. And these are the people that often don't go too much further. But there's so many artists, I mean, that suffer from this. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where you don't believe that you're as good as you are, or you just don't believe you're good. And when people tell you, man, your stuff's awesome, it's great, yet in your mind you're like, yeah, it's okay, I don't know. I met um, Drew Struzan, the famous Drew Struzan who painted all the Star Wars, Indiana Jones covers and all that. He's a
Mhm.
guy who suffers from that. He will get, told, to his face, man. It's like, I saw him talk and he's like, I don't understand why people like my artwork so much. And
Crazy.
all this, it's this crazy thing that people go through. I even saw it yesterday on this interview with Selena Gomez, right? Where she went into a 90-day therapy because she was so depressed that she didn't understand why, she didn't feel she deserved it. Like, who is she? She felt like she was fooling everyone. And this is another thing called the imposter syndrome. It's another effect. It's called the imposter syndrome, where you feel that you're fooling everyone, where
Mm.
you feel that you don't deserve this. Like, why are you getting this? Why do you have the success? Why are you enjoying this when I'm just me? It's just me. And it's an interesting thing. So don't feel you're alone out there because we all go through it.
Yeah, a
Well,
lot
Stephen,
of those
that
effects, they're even more common in high-level professionals, because
Yeah,
they're working with all these other high-level professionals, so they don't see themselves at that same level, you
right.
know?
Actors, sports people. Yeah.
Well, that kind of leads into another one of the audience questions from Amy. Stephen, when do you feel like you gained that confidence as an artist? Like, is there a moment in time that sticks out where you feel like you realize, yeah, I can do this, and this is what I do?
In all honesty, it's funny even just talking about this at times. I can say that for me, I've for sure suffered from the imposter, syndrome. Like, how am I even here? How did this, even happen? But, I think what happened was for me when I was drawing caricatures. That's how I started my career, drawing caricatures and theme parks. And I would recommend to anyone who's got an inclining for drawing caricature or design in that sense, like go get a job in a theme park during the summer. Like now's the time that they're going to start hiring for people, but go out there because that'll test you to the max. When you're sitting out there and you got everyone's a critic when you're out there and you're drawing people, where people are telling you your artwork sucked. I had people ripping up my artwork in front of me, and all this. So you're really
Wow.
faced with that. Yeah, it was horrible. But I think my peers at that point, it was that real life feedback. It was people watching me draw and wanting, and they were just started to come around me, and even the other caricature artists, and wanting to know what I was doing and how I did this and all that. Where I just started to build up the belief that, hey, I think I really got something here. And then, it's always been trial and error. You never get true. I don't know. I don't know that you ever truly get that. I think you're always going to be learning, as an artist. I think my greatest thing, I think that's what led me to teaching, was because of this whole sort of idea to where for me, it's just that almost like help other people discover this became almost like therapy for me, and in a weird way made me a lot better because I was having to constantly repeat the basics and go over it, and it became. But yeah, things like that. I think I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah.
No, I think it's great. I mean, it ties in well the idea that you have to put yourself out there and get over those fears, as well as that helps gain the confidence, right? So it's
Yeah,
like the fear and the confidence kind of go hand in hand in that way.
Well,
I do.
I have
Oh,
a
go.
bit of a different experience with this because I went through, and I'm still going through some like bad back pain and arm pain and stuff like that. But it was it was really bad, maybe 2 years ago till about maybe 4 months ago, 6 months ago at the most. So it's very recent, and during that time, it was like I could probably draw maybe 2 hours a day, and then that's it. If I go over that, I need to go see the doctor. Um, and that was very difficult because I could almost feel my artistic muscles shriveling up. Just like when you don't go work out regularly anymore. So then everything that I was doing wasn't coming out the way that I wanted it to come out. First, because I didn't have enough time, and second, because I was getting rusty. So that was very difficult for me as an artist and my confidence. But that's when you go back to your principles. Okay, am I trying my hardest? I'm trying my hardest to get better. So, you're on the right track. And now that I have gotten my arm a lot better and my back a lot better, oh man, I'm loving it now because now I just keep learning. I'm taking one schoolism class at a time and I try to make it a part of my work, putting them into these streams and things like that. And you can feel the evolution of your art, of your knowledge, of your brain, everything. And I can, you know, I don't know about many of the other avenues to learn, online or live or whatever, but I do know what we do at Schoolism has worked for me tremendously, tremendously. And yeah, it's been nothing but awesomeness. And I'm going to continue that, and as long as I keep going and keep learning and keep feeling and seeing my art evolve, guaranteed that's going to gain you the confidence to know that you can make it in the long run.
Okay, I just want to add something to that. I feel this is just very important, and just with just again, it just comes down to the learning, and because you have to not only put it into your schedule and say that, hey, you know what, I'm going to practice for whether it's 10 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day. It's not that you have to be drawing for 8 hours a day, because sometimes you're drawing the wrong thing and you're not getting better. But what I do want to just say is if you're doing the schoolism classes, and I tell this to everyone, and you're not getting the instructed, make sure you do the assignments. That's my biggest pet peeve, honestly. I don't know. It's when people say, hey, man, I'm doing the schoolism course. I say, are you doing the assignment? No, I'm not doing the assignment. I'm just watching the videos. Please don't do that. That's not benefiting you as much as watch the assignments. Do the assignments. You have to put in the time. You have to put in the time. And that's part of your regimen. That's part of your commitment to getting better, because everyone learns differently.
Imagine we went to the gym and got a personal trainer to teach us these exercises, and we watch him, and then we're like, yes, thank you, and let's go home. Let's get an ice cream.
Exactly. That couldn't be a more perfect analogy. And I just want to say that because that's what you have to do. You got to just put in the time. And another thing that I just wrote down that I just want to make sure people don't get confused about anything is, some people, we're talking about being an independent artist and doing things like that. But for some people, a studio job is the best thing for you because it gives you that job security. It gives you that place to go. And it's great. I was in the studio for many years and it's great. You got your weekly paycheck, but it's a nomadic life. You go from one studio to the next. So as long as you're prepared for that and know that you're going to be hop, skip, and jumping around, because some people, they don't want to just be freelance. That's not what they want to do. But just know that it's a good experience, and I would encourage you, if that's what you want to do it. But it comes down to knowing what it is that, you want. Is that the sort of lifestyle that matches for you, So that's very important. I just want to throw that in there.
That's great. Another audience question for you guys. We talked about this a little bit about being able to create joyfully. Oftentimes it's a lonely job being an artist. How do you guys deal with the isolation of being a freelance artist and working on your own? How do you stay happy doing that?
I deal with the isolation more than Bobby does. Bobby's got surrounded by a wonderful, beautiful team of people, all his friends. He works with all his friends, so he's built something, great there. Maybe he'll say otherwise, but what I go through it where for me, I have to, I think being in LA sort of helps because I can go to any sort of events that are happening out here and just surround myself with other artists. But something that I do twice a week is I go to Starbucks and I bring my stuff to Starbucks and I go there just to be around people, just to get out of the house because I work in my house. I got a studio here but I do need to just sort of just like break away. And, I don't mind it. I kind of love it. I remember when I was in the studios that oftentimes the biggest complaint I always have, and many people, if you guys are listening, work in the studios, you can say the same thing. Every time you go to lunch or even during the day, it was just a bitch session. You go there and everyone's complaining and moaning and groaning about this sucks and this and all these problems. And that was nice to step away from that. And every now and again, when I've gone to lunch with some friends and I'm in a group, I remember not too long ago, one of my friends said, "Okay, dude, just be prepared. It's going to be a bitch fest." And I'm like, okay, know. So it's just fun going actually and just sitting there and listening to all the complaints. As bad as that sounds, it's kind of funny, but it's.
I wouldn't enjoy that at all. I would not enjoy that one bit. And that's why a lot of people that I might have hung around with years ago, I don't hang out with them anymore because I can't stand that when they just go, "Yeah, I have no choice though,
Oh,
this is how life is," and all that
yeah,
stuff. And I don't want to be that person to be like
right.
lecturing them or something and going, "No, it's not, it doesn't need to be like that." And that's why, like over the years, I've just gravitated more towards friends and people that are more successful because they have the same mindset as me. They wouldn't bitch about those things, and that to me has been how um, I first started dealing with being isolated. I just try to surround myself with, some really good friends that have the same mentality as me. And even if we weren't all successful then, pretty much all of them are successful now, which is really incredible. So it definitely
Well,
makes a difference.
It
I
is.
think.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, would you guys speak? What do you think about like the perception of your circumstances, right? Because I think, Bobby, a lot of what I feel like I've taken away from you is to see perceived weaknesses as an opportunity to be different.
Yeah, well, that's was that book Think and Grow Rich, right? Napoleon Hill. He
Right.
talks about every disadvantage that you think that you have, there's an advantage in there somewhere, and it's absolutely correct. In the beginning, it was, well, you're in Toronto and you want to work on, big projects from California. How are you going to do that? Well, we're doing that and we've done that for 12 years. And actually, that became a big advantage to us because a lot of the people that we worked with, we became their little hidden secret, that wasn't in California, which turned out to be awesome because we became a lot of people's little hidden secrets. So, yeah, every disadvantage that you think that you have, you just got to keep digging in there to find what is that advantage, though.
Yeah, and that's something where I hear it a lot, actually. It's like we live in a global economy now, and the way things work through the internet. Most clients, I live in LA, and most of my clients have never seen their face. It's all been through FTP and email. So it doesn't matter where, that's just an excuse where you live in the world. And I hear it a lot. And one of my good friends and, Bobby's good friend, who's now a teacher on schoolism, Wouter Top, he was one of these guys who, living in the Netherlands. It's impossible. How are you going to get those jobs? How are you going to do that? Everyone believed because you lived in the Netherlands, you couldn't work in the industry and you couldn't do that. And he proved everyone wrong. He's done so much work in the industry and met people. And again, I'm not going to lie. You got to have the talent. You got to have the skill. You can't just, think that, this talent that I haven't nurtured yet is going to get me all the work just because this is my dream. It's like, you got a dream, you got to want this, but you also got to just work to build up that skill level so that you can be living in another country and say, this is what I want to do. But again, he was surrounded by people who said it's impossible. And that's what we were talking about before. These are the people you want to detach yourself from. You want to get away from. So if any of you guys listening are surrounded by people who are the naysayers, who are constantly telling you how it's impossible, because maybe they had a bad experience. Maybe their talent isn't as good as yours. Maybe they're not as friendly as you. Maybe they're not as personable. Maybe they don't have much confidence as you. And that's why it didn't work for them. But just because it didn't work for them doesn't mean it's not going to work for you, but I would buy for sure. And I did the same thing as Bobby. I had friends in this industry which I no longer talk to anymore, just because they were always such downers. Everything's just like, well, do this. Yeah, easy for you. No, it's not easy for me. It never was easy for me. Why is it any easier for me than it is for you? You just got to decide that you want to do it and follow through with it. And that's what you got to do.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of the people that were friends with me and are friends with me ever since I started, they saw me grow. They saw the studio grow. They saw us start from nothing, literally nothing, and nothing around us. Uh, because they saw that grow, because they saw when we started off in the same position, they all feel like they have all the potential in the world as well. They feel like it's so much more reachable because they saw the journey. It's the ones
Yeah.
now where I might meet them now and then they go, yeah, you started, whatever. That was a long time ago, though. Things are different now. But
Yeah.
really,
Excuse. Yeah.
yeah, they're just excuses. And
Yeah.
we're living in the time where there is very little excuse for excuses, people. Like everything is so available
Taylor.
around us. We're talking about schoolism classes, and some people might be like, "Oh, I don't have thousands of dollars to learn from you guys." $15 a month for a subscription is what I take. Just $15 a month so that anytime I have some free time, I go to my class, I watch it, I practice the stuff, and
Yeah.
as long as you keep it
Son.
regular,
Yeah.
you'll see the growth, you'll see the potential. Highly recommend it.
So, that has a lot to do with setting goals, I think, too. Like setting up an important thing for yourself. Decide what is important for yourself and make it happen. If
Goals
it's
are strong.
$15,
Sorry, goals are
right,
strong, but principles are
right.
forever. Even when you reach a goal, you still got that principle, it's even stronger. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No worries. No, that's exactly right. I think that if that $15 a month goes to a schoolism class, it speaks to your principles, right?
Yeah.
That
Well,
class is what's important.
and here's the thing that happens a lot, which is unfortunate. This is something I beat into my students' head all the time. I teach also live classes. I just have this mentorship here where I just have 5 students at a time at my house. But what I beat into their head, and I tell them, because every time I mention a book, or even I read from an excerpt from a book or mention something, don't just, it's like even when we talk about these things, it's amazing how few people actually go, what was that book that he mentioned? What was that he said? Let me go follow through with it. So few people will even go to that next level to even research the Dunning-Kruger effect. Like, even though I mentioned it, even look at Napoleon's Hill, Think and Grow Rich. But we mentioned those books. And these are the things that you want to pay attention to, that if someone says something or someone mentions something, this is part of your regimen. What is that? How can I learn? How can I grow? What can I read? And what can I observe? And these are the vital things to improvement. There's no pixie dust. There's nothing out there that you can buy on the shelf. I wish there was, that you could just buy it. Look at that pixie dust right there. I'm going to sprinkle on me, and I'm going to have all the knowledge and the talent. This is where that regimen and that goal setting, comes into, like your calendar. I don't keep anything on my computer calendar-wise. I have an actual physical calendar that I write my everyday goal, my everyday thing on there, because it feels like artwork, and I'm looking at it's my own handwriting, and I look at that and I know what it is I need to, accomplish in that day. And that's part of, all this sort of structure that I think people, if you're serious about this, then these are the steps. And Bobby can attest to this too. It's about, you find mentors, no matter who they are in life. It could be your father, it could be a businessman, it could be anything, whatever it is. You find mentors that you say, what did they do? What are they doing? And that's what you want to just try to mimic and just try to follow. You may not follow their exact path, but you say, what is this that they did to get to the point where I want to be? So once again, it comes down to know what it is that you even want. And then you can start.
Yeah, but also I just wanted to kind of touch on the fact that, I sought you out, Stephen, right? Like years
Mm.
ago, I'm still a very big admirer of your work, but I was like an even huger, admirer of your work because I was a
Yeah, yeah,
student when I first got your book and everything, and I sought you out, um, if you are constantly kind of searching out the knowledge instead of just trying to figure it out yourself. Like some people, they just sit at home and they try and they try and then they complain because
yeah,
nothing's
yeah, yeah.
happening.
Right.
Well, if you don't learn what everybody else has discovered and figured out before you, you're going to have a much harder time getting to the place that you want to go. And art, we say, yeah, everything is possible. But is it easy? It's not easy, guys. It really isn't. And just like music, just like many of the other different kinds of art, it's all very difficult. But the thing
Mm.
is if you surround yourself with the like-minded people, with the right kind of principles, and you're learning from people that did it and have succeeded. Not
Mhm.
just from that teacher or whatever that's, not it hasn't really done anything or
It's a
maybe
lot of
never
literature.
demos, and things like that, right? You got to
Yeah,
learn from the people that actually succeeded in the thing that you want to do. And yeah, that's what I want to say about that.
That's
yeah,
great. That's wonderful. You guys have talked a little bit about, it is hard and you do have to work hard at this. And this is something that doesn't come easily to everybody right off the bat. One person in the audience had a question about handling burnout and art burnout. And that in part, I had a question about that as well. As far as like your mental strength and routine, can you guys talk a little bit about how you keep your energy up?
The
yeah.
routine. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's, partly that, but also you're working on things you want to work on. So I know for me, how I keep it up is like I'm excited about everything that I'm, working on. Otherwise, I try to maybe I might get a job, and I'm not that keen about what they actually want me to do. But I think me having my own projects that I work on the side, that's what keeps that going. If I was just working, and this is where a lot of the burnout with the studio artists comes, because all they're ever doing is working on someone else's stuff. And
Mm.
so mentally they're getting frustrated, and it's part of that. So for me, my routine is just make sure you're developing and working on your own projects too, and you're giving yourself some time, and that you're allowing that time for you, and not just always for other people.
Bobby, do you have something to say to that?
I think one thing that really helps is when you see things change. You see things get accomplished, and a lot of times if I'm not organized, I have a whole list of things in my head, not an actual list, but a list in my head of things I want to do, things I want to accomplish, and if I don't have it all organized, I'm kind of like frozen. I need like a good 10 minutes to figure out, okay, what should I actually do? So that's why it's good to have a schedule. It's good to have priorities. It's good to have a list of the goals that you want to achieve and put them in order and think about the
Mhm.
little details of accomplishing that goal. Would you need regular time scheduled in on all that stuff? Because it really is the biggest change happens when you get your details right, the little tiny details of your process.
That's really great. Now, a lot of that with having a good routine and not burning out goes back to kind of where we started with the conversation about creating joyfully and having fun with it, and making sure that you're making yourself as happy as you can be. What do you guys think? This is another audience question here. Alex asked, what do you think would be the single most important quality or trait for a successful artist to have? And
Ooh.
I would add to that, to be a happy artist, not just successful, not just grinding out.
Um, Okay. So I don't know that it transition. I think everyone again is everyone's an individual. I don't think there's this magic formula. I can say for me, part of almost what I said before, what makes me a happy. I'm a very happy, content artist, and that's merely due to the fact that I found my purpose, which is to teach in life, and that's what I do. And I also work on a lot of my own developments, projects, produce my own things, and that's what is fulfilling me. So it's like everyone's going to find their own little bucket, their own little thing that fills them, And for me, those are the things. Find your purpose, and that's through a lot of trial and error, or just stumbling across it. In all honesty, I mean, I remember the very first time I started to teach at this school in Los Angeles. This was probably about 20 years ago. And I remember when I went up there in front of the classroom, there were probably about 10 students at the time, and I started to draw on that whiteboard, and I shit you not, there was like, I felt like lightning bolts. I saw like it was this craziest experience that I have ever experienced in my life. This energy, I felt like I got possessed, like someone came into my body and something happened. It was wild. And at that point I knew, and I remember calling my wife on the way home, and I said, I found out what it is I need to do in life. And it was through that experience. Again, everyone's going to have their own thing, but it's going to be trial and error. There is no magic formula. I used to tell people my journey, hey, do this, do that, go do characters, then do this. And I realized, no, that was my journey. That was my story. You need to find, what it is that you even, want. And it's that discovery. And that's why you're constantly learning and trial and error and see what works. And it's sometimes just about timing. That's what it all comes down to.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a really interesting and kind of challenging question to figure out what is one thing that, what's the single most. So, yeah, great question, Alex. What I would say is something that can kind of point to everybody and everybody can do this and benefit is to practice the skill of thinking about whatever you're doing or whatever you're saying from other people's point of view. Okay, so in other words, when you're talking with a client, you're thinking about it from their point of view, not just yours. Not like, yeah, this is a really great job. You should totally hire me because I would get a lot out of this and I would learn a lot from you guys and I would do, like that kind of thing. When you're thinking from another person's point of view, then you can also look at your art and go, yeah, it's not there yet. Or, yeah, this is good enough. I should be happy with this. Or, I see the growth. Or, is this character really going to work in this film? Because you're picturing it from the audience point of view, from the director's point of view, from all the different people that you need to talk to, right? And just that one skill can kind of umbrella pretty much every facet of art, I think.
That's really great. I have a question for you guys. I've been really interested in this for a little bit. This one's a little lighter. We've been hitting some heavy topics here for a minute. Bobby and Steven, I'm curious what you guys feel is something memorable that each of you have learned from one another. You guys have known each other for a long time. And I know, Bobby, you originally reached out to Steven as one of the first schoolism teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you could tell us something that really drew you to Steven first in his artwork.
His handsome face. He looks like Bono a little bit. But yeah, I think the thing that I really respect and admire about Steven is just a lot of stuff that he's been saying. His love of art, the genuine love of art, and the biggest thing that I learned from him was to give back, to teach others, because not only is it fulfilling for yourself, not only does it help your own art, like thinking about the intricacies of your process and really analyzing your own process and everything, because that helps as well. But when you're working on movies, you're working on video games, that's really cool. Like I said, it can really inspire some people, it can really gain some fans. But when you teach somebody and now they can do something that they couldn't do before or never even dreamed that they could do before, all of a sudden you just change their lives. And
Mm,
that is the most humbling, the most honorable thing that you can do. So
that's awesome.
imagine if the whole entire world did that, we would be so awesome right now.
Absolutely, that's a great answer, Stephen. I want to ask it slightly differently for you. When Bobby approached you, a lot of the audience out there is going to be thinking about approaching their favorite artists after they hear this. So when Bobby approached you, what made you want to get on the phone and talk to Bobby?
It's I think just first of all, his artwork, to me, just was amazing. And I don't know, I think it was something just within the voice. I just respect someone who has that sort of just drive and discipline. And there was just something where I don't know, again, I can't, it was so long ago, but remembering that this is a guy that just is driven. This guy's got some magic, going on. And I also got to say, that I got to put Bobby in the package with Kay. It's like we're talking Bobby and Kay here. And
Mm-hmm.
I just remember when I, first met them, two together. I think it was after the conversation we first met at New York Comic Con, right, Bobby? It was like, I think that was where
Yeah,
we,
and we were both
first.
so nervous to talk to Steven.
And we first met, and again, it's an energy. There's an energy, and there's something that just with just Bobby and Kay, and just you just know your people, And I always thought that at one point, again, me and my reincarnation philosophy, I think that we had connected in a past life, before, because that's another area where there was, like, I feel like just this true magical spark, and nothing felt awkward. It was just everything was very real. And the conversation, it was just real, and it was meaningful, and there was just that instant, connection. And it wasn't till maybe about, I don't even know, maybe a year later or so that, schoolism sort of like, came about. Then we just started seeing each other at the conventions, and that's where we would meet. And it was just, I don't know, man, it was love at first sight. That's all I can
Oh,
say.
isn't that
12
sweet?
years ago. Yeah,
12
12
years ago.
years
Yeah,
ago now.
yeah,
Holy
yeah.
smokes.
Yeah,
And hey, I do just want to say, just because you mentioned, if other people are gonna, reach out, the most important thing is that you can do is just, again, be yourself, be genuine, don't be awkward. There's nothing worse than being at a convention or something and people want to meet you, but they just stand there and stare at you. That's not genuine. It becomes very awkward, or there's things, maybe you're uncomfortable meeting people, and I get that, but I would say before you meet the people that you want to meet, just just, I don't know, maybe test it in front of the mirror or a friend, or know the questions in your mind that you want to ask, so you don't sit there and just stare, because that's very uncomfortable for people. And I've heard this from many different artists, where that comfort level. So whatever you do, don't do that.
good advice. Definitely good advice.
That's awesome. Well, you know what? Time goes by super fast when you're talking with good friends. So I want to
Uh,
thank the audience, of course, for asking all
yeah.
these great questions. I want to thank Matt Johnson, my buddy Matt Johnson, for being
Thank you,
such a
guys.
great host for this stream. And of course, one of my biggest thank yous goes to one of my best buddies, Mr. Steven
Woohoo.
Silver.
Thanks,
Definitely
thank
check
you.
out his course, because guess what? I work in live action, I've worked in video games, I worked in, 2D, 3D, whatever. I consider his principles in character design my fundamental principles as well. Take them, take the class, bone up on your character design, start learning something. If anything, just take any kind of class and start learning
Learn,
something.
learn. Yeah, yeah. Just
Yeah.
keep going. Yeah.
That's
And if you
I
guys
know
are
I learned a lot today. Thank you guys. I learned a lot myself. I appreciate the opportunity.
right on.
And
And
you guys can, go if you guys are interested too, and you want to hear me rant about stuff. I have my my YouTube channel just at Silvertunes, YouTube/Silvertunes.
fantastic.
Yeah, I guess yeah,
YouTube.com/Silvertunes. And
yeah.
next week, same time, same channel, we're gonna have we're gonna have the one and only Claire Wenling on the stream. She's
Woohoo!
coming
Ooh.
on. It's going to be phenomenal. Another one of my absolute artistic heroes. So definitely come back if you want to make sure that you are up to date on the live streams, interviews, and tutorials. Get on the Schoolism mailing list. The link is in the details of this stream today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.